Right. Yeah, this is, people ask a lot about this, where do you get the references from? And I think it's kind of everywhere, anywhere and everywhere. Videos that I shoot and take the stills out of them, or from online sites, Pexels being probably the number one that I go to. But one of the tricks I think with that is that don't type in, a male face, well lit or whatever, because you just get the model poses. They're not the real. What you're looking for is something honest and genuine, something with emotion. So I tend to type in people doing things, males in or females doing something, whether it's working or playing or sort of driving a bus, whatever. So I tend to work like that rather than looking for models. I say I don't think that you're ever going to get the kind of genuine feel that you're after. So that's it, really. I mean, that's where I start, if you like, when I start looking for images. But the main thing, I think, is the tonal side of things. You can see on this one. I mean, charcoal probably is better. I mean, generally speaking, drawing things that have better forms defined by shadow or darker tones are easy to draw if in with charcoal. And charcoal suits that kind of thing. Sort of outlines that have some kind of very faint tonal. Like a female face that's well lit, because often people overlight things, so they're overlit. And if you're shooting it, I mean, I shoot, if I'm taking videos of people, I'll just shoot them with a single source, sat near a door, or in this case, sat in a cafe, and he was looking away from me, and the window was further down, obviously, and just lighting one side of his face. So you get that single source effect, which gives you these nice contrasty shadows. But the other thing as well is that if people do this, they work from black and white images. And one of the things that you'll be able to do this, but you don't know you do it, is that you can see tones and the values, if you like, far more in far more detail than if it had been desaturated by software. Because as soon as it's desaturated by software, it takes away some of the very finer increments of tone, which we can see, but the camera can't see and the software can't see. So always try to work from color images rather than black and white images. It's sort of, there are two reasons for that. I think the black and white image, as I said, takes away too much tone for me, too many subtle tones. And secondly, it kind of tells you what the drawing is going to look like, if you know what I mean. And you stick to that. You kind of stick to that because it's saying this is what it should look like as a charcoal drawing, or as a half tone, or a black and white drawing. And I don't want to be told what this is going to end up looking like. I want to decide myself, and for the drawing to decide for me. So anyway, I also spend a long time looking for references. That's another thing that I think people don't. I mean, I've spent most of this morning looking for references, so that's a long time. But that's how it is, because the number one thing is that that makes all the difference is choosing the right images to draw. And if you're working from life, choosing the right kind of lighting. You can have a great model and poor lighting, and it's wasted. It's got to be, it's got to be well lit, and it's got to be well shot. This is why I like the video. If we're using a live model, or if I'm with a friend or one of my son's friends, and I'm just videoing people, I'm shooting on the phone, and I'm taking different angles. I'm moving the phone around, and you get hundreds of images. You get hundreds of images you can use, all of which probably capture the essence of that person far better than if they were just staring into space. Although this guy is just staring into space, but that's the whole point. I mean, I captured him in the moment thinking about something that he was probably not even aware that I was filming him, which is even better. And that, as I say, is the sort of trick. We're looking for these candid moments of pure the person, their natural self. That's what we're looking for. All portraits have to capture the human, the person, not the persona. You've got to try and capture the person behind the eyes, not just in front of them. And it's very difficult to do that. It's particularly difficult if it's a live, sort of studio model, because often I've done these, and the model kind of is somewhere between awake and asleep, sort of semi-conscious, and they're thinking about what they're going to have for tea or whatever it is, and it's not really. I mean, if I'm chatting to somebody, take the picture, have a conversation with somebody, and whilst you're conversing with them, you're talking about stuff, right? You're talking about their family, you're talking about their life, their work, or whatever, things that bring light to their eyes, and that happens if you're able to capture that on video, and then find the moment, the still with the frame within the video that actually embodies that emotion, then you're that's what you want. I mean, that's probably the number one secret to getting images that have emotion in them, is that you talk to them to ignite their emotions, and then at the moment you'll capture it regardless. You're not sort of pressing the button when you see them smile or whatever. You're videoing the thing, so you're capturing those all the seconds of their emotion. And we found this back in the 90s. I did something for careers, and for a career guide thing, which was sort of behind the scenes of various careers, from zookeepers to airline pilots, that kind of thing. And we couldn't get them back in the 90s. Nobody was media competent. These days, you point a camera and they'll suddenly start posing. But back in the day, you'd never point a camera at anybody, and it'd be rude, And but we found that just chatting to people whilst having coffee and then letting the tapes run, we got much better footage, and we got better audio, and much more natural stuff. So that's exactly what I do with a phone. So I just point the phone at somebody and then just chat away, and invariably I capture moments like this where he's got something on his mind, or I think he was just looking up at the menu. But nevertheless, you got that very relaxed kind of feel about it, and I think more than anything else, if you're gonna draw portraits, whether it's reference or from life, the most important thing is that it's got that natural presence about it. It's got a much more genuine feel about it. Otherwise, they're just staring at walls. Generally, you'll see anybody who does life drawing, you see the portraits are always sort of somebody staring at a wall, and or staring into space. And that's what it's great. I mean, it's drawing from life. People will tell you it's great. I mean, I'm not bothered either way, but people will say it's better and all. I'm not so sure, but they'll say it is. But the problem with drawing from life, and because it doesn't have the thing that ignites a portrait for me is that I can see an emotion, right? And because there's no emotion when it's someone sitting in front of you and they're staring at whatever, a point on the wall or whatever. Because there's no emotion, generally it results in you focusing on the production. Because that's all there is. It's just the production side of things. So you become production orientated. So it's whether it's structure, whether it's sort of how you handle the tones and the shading and all the rest of it. It becomes about those things. because there's nothing else. There's nothing that's making you giddy. Nothing that excites you. You think, this is, there's just, you connect with their emotion. You can't, because they're not showing any emotion. So it becomes about the production, I say, which is fine, but that's basically how you judge it. You judge it based on your production abilities. You get locked into that as the process, if you like, of doing a portrait. And it becomes all about the production side of things. And for me, this is another reason why I wouldn't do or try not to do too many of the live, sitting and drawing somebody. I'd rather take their pictures and work from that. It's because I don't want it to become about the production. I'm not interested. I'm really not interested in production. It is what it is, and I've had this thing about getting locked into methods or any kind of other kind of rule. I've always had this, since I've been doing it. Not necessarily years ago. I was a rule follower, but I'm not now. So I if I can keep away from anything that's going to force me in that direction, I will do. And if you notice, the people that you go along to these sessions, if you like, they are rule keepers. They're sort of, the photographic community type clubs, those kind of people. It's end up talking about brushes and talking about paper and talking about things that matter to these people. I mean, that's the thing. These because of this other priority, this priority that it can only be about the technique because the emotional connection response thing isn't there most of the time. And then people sort of talk to me about this. There's always this emotion in it, and it's hard for me to explain because invariably they're not in understand. Like somebody commented on one of these the other day, and it was like all he could compare it with was practical outcomes. What's wrong with actually following the rules? What's wrong with doing it the way that, because otherwise we'd have been still riding around the horse, or something like that he put on it. But the thing, it's fine. It's fine if you want to follow rules. It's fine. I'm not saying it isn't. All I'm saying is that unless you experience what it is to be creative, I don't think you'd ever ask that kind of question. You wouldn't say, we follow the rules because that's the only way we progress. It's no. If you know anything about philosophy, you'll understand that there are no true questions. Very rare there are true questions, because it's all based on previous knowledge. All questions are based on previous knowledge, so they can't be pure questions, can they? So progress can't exist in terms of when there's a legacy of knowledge. You have to be in a position where ignorance drives your curiosity, and that's the thing about for me, about the drawing side of things, or making portraits. I need it to be an inquisition. I need it to be an investigation. I need it to be all those things that imply that I know nothing about this face, that I know nothing about this character. I want to know about this character. That's what I'm trying to capture. I'm trying to capture what I don't know. But as I said, finding references in that respect. If you want to make it a deal, it's a big deal. But if it's not, go down the shops, sit at the bus stop, get on the bus, ask people if they don't mind, and just film them. And I guarantee you'll come back with hundreds of suitable images. It's just, we can make a deal out of it if you want, and you can be searching through the internet, and but it's a lot easier than what you think. We've got these devices now, these amazing devices, these things. Just get the point with it. It doesn't matter about resolution. If you can get one that's got low resolution, that's even better. If you don't want detail, we want to be able to see the shapes and not the eyelashes. So it's a lot easier than what you think. But as I said, the primary thing I would say is lighting. It's important that it's lit in such a way that it, like this one is, that it gives, you can see all the forms, you can see all the shapes, as well as it not being too specific, because there are certain things that don't need to be drawn. So if it's something that's in shadow, particularly when you're working with charcoal, and in the lesson we were talking about this last night with the depth of charcoal, its tonal depth, because you can create amazing sort of internal depth to with charcoal. It's got like layers, I suppose, of tone that you can exploit, and that gives charcoal, for me, a huge benefit over, say, graphite. Because graphite, you'd have to work it. But with charcoal, you don't. It doesn't require a great deal of effort to explore the depths of tone that you can reach. And the other thing as well, that in that process of exploring it and making all the mistakes, because you're doing whatever, it's not quite as accurate as it should be. The mistakes suddenly become almost like and I've said this before about mistakes. You got to really embrace that side of things. They become more of a definition of a face or drawing than the actual, the lines that you really want to make happen. But as I said, with charcoal, you're in this sort of realm of because one of the things is tone. Tone's everything. So you've got this tool that will create this amazing range of tones with little or no effort, and all of a sudden you're knocking out portraits because the charcoal is doing a lot of the work. But you've got to let it do the work. I mean, that's the other thing as well. It's this: if you're too precious and too precise about things, you're gonna not get the benefits that charcoal brings, because you're probably a graphite artist and have come to charcoal and he's trying to use it like graphite, and it doesn't work like graphite. But if you can embrace the fact that it's all this randomness about it, the sort of the tonal. The other thing about the tone, if you can embrace the tonal possibilities of charcoal, I think you that's when you get the benefit from it. But up until that point, you're always trying to mimic something. I mean, the mimicking of photographs with charcoal is a common thing. So if you come into charcoal, you're probably thinking in those terms. You're probably thinking in you've seen so many people make copies of photographs with charcoal that's what charcoal's used for. That's what you think. But if you look at, say, something like Sargent's charcoals, you can see that how people should really use charcoal. And there are many others. I'm not saying that Oliver Sane and all those sort of people, these masters as they call themselves, they're probably the people that you will see, and there are many others that do it as well. You've got to be careful with charcoal, because a lot of people, it's more about the technique than it is about their drawing ability. So they develop some technique for applying large areas of charcoal, and then they smudge it, and all of a sudden you've got these somewhere between a photograph and a drawing kind of thing. And they're almost like photographic in their way. And then they've got a mass of charcoal all around it. And that, in a way, it's technique overdrawing, really. You can get there eventually if you wanted to, but primarily I'd say drawing is the place where you start. You can become one of those photographic kind of charcoal people later on when you develop your skills, and it may well be that that's your ultimately your style. But I think you've got to start with the drawing, and the drawing is all about the connection with the subject. It's not about this. Not about doing this, because whatever this happens, whatever I do with this is a result of my connection with the subject. So I've got to I've got to do that first. So connect with the subject, feel the subject, empathize with the subject, do all those sort of things, the things that you as a human can already do. Let that drive the way you make your marks, and then let whatever happen. Because, as I said, you might end up with a particular style. It might be something influenced, let's say, by the kind of thing you see with these sort of photocopier types. But it depends. Because one of the things that a lot of people will measure. This is a sponge on a stick, by the way. So if you were thinking, well, what the heck's that? It's because I don't like stumps, and it comes to a point where my fingers are either loaded with charcoal, or I've got grease off the putty rubber on the finger, and then when you put it on, it gets very blotchy and things. But this is good for. It's almost like painting with this. It's a bit more looser and less specific in the way it manipulates the charcoal, and all of it is, as I say, is probably a much more. For me, it's a much more less technical. So, and it certainly doesn't make it look sort of photographic smooth, which is really one of the major things that I need to try and keep away from. But charcoal will do it so readily, so you've got to be careful with charcoal from that point of view. But as I said, as far as the references are concerned, I think you've got to. I think you've got to be open to all kinds of images. So what happened initially? People said about the Pexels thing. I used to go through Pexels and just wait until something caught. Well, I'd go with a specific idea. So we were doing something in one of the classes, for instance, and I'd go with, I need a man hard at work or whatever it might be. And after about an hour, I'd be fed up of just scrolling through them all, and I literally just then waited until it struck me. At that point, I thought, yeah, that looked good. I'll do that. And that's really how it was. And what was happening was that I was connecting with a subject and saw some kind of emotion in it or whatever it might be, and that's what was influencing my choice. So then it seemed logical to say, well, that's just what's going to happen. It's just going to be images that I can emotionally connect with, and that's kind of what I do now. So there's no, if I'm on Pexels or if it's as I say a friend that I'm filming or I'm on the bus and doing it. That's the thing. That's the only criteria. It's just, can I connect with this other human? And because that's what I'm going to have to do. And if I can connect it, and I see something in their eyes, or I see something in their posture or whatever, that's what I'm going for. That's what I'm trying to hit, and it works. I mean, I've virtually got an endless stream of references. So. Up until, I still spend, as I said, an hour this morning or most of the morning, should I say, trying to find something. But it depends. In the lessons, I try and meet certain criteria. So whereas like with this, which is just for us, for my pleasure, I don't have any criteria. I just scroll through what I've got, and then if I like it, I do it. It's that kind of thing. So. But as I said, it's the most important thing. I think it's the one thing that will improve your drawing overnight, to have the right kind of references. But people get all kinds of hung up about doing it. They get sort of judgmental of the drawing, because one of the things you'll do is, and lots of people do it, is, well, it's too complicated, I can draw that, they do that. So they've sort of shut themselves down before they've even got in the plane, kind of thing. And it'll be whatever it'll be, and it'll work or it won't. It's that kind of attitude. You can't have the censorship of the subjects before you even start, making the portrait. because you don't, I mean, apart from the fact you shouldn't have an outcome in mind, but you just don't know what you'll learn from it. You'll learn so much regardless. And when you don't learn, then what you do learn is that particular thing that was a struggle or whatever it was, it will become your information for the next time that you face it. And one of the things I would say about the drawing portraits is that you never draw the same thing twice. If you're a professional, yeah, you can do it all day long. But if you're not and you want to learn quickly how to make portraits, don't draw the same thing twice. Fail, if you want to call it failure, and move on. That's the only way you'll learn. And you'll learn so much quicker than if you were painstakingly trying to fix the nose because it's not quite right, and all that. Don't do that. Just it didn't work. Move on. It's probably the best advice I can give, and you will just exponentially grow. And because of that, I mean, I do it now. I still don't draw the same thing twice. I can't even paint the same thing twice. I was going to draw the old man. This one. I was going to draw the old man as well as the painting, but I can't draw and paint the same thing. I can't draw the same thing twice, or paint and draw the same thing twice. It just doesn't work. But that's just a hang up from when I was first starting to do this. I had to. I wanted to do it quickly. I didn't want to get bogged down with the fixing of things, and that, I think that stemmed from when I first came back to this, and I wasn't drawing portraits before, but I went to a Sunday morning drawing thingy at a local art club, and this guy, the one guy there, and I just asked him how he was doing. He said, it's not quite right, but it will be. And 2 hours later, he was still doing it, and he'd said the same thing. It's not quite right, but it will be. And I said, well, why don't you just leave it and move on? Oh no, I'll make it work. And that kind of thing is such a. I thought that's just not the right attitude to have. Learn from your mistakes and move on. It's as simple as that. Don't keep trying to fix the thing, because it just gets worse and worse. And the problem is if you do the same thing again because you think, oh, next time I do it, it'll be a lot better. The next time you do it, you focus on the thing you failed in the first place. So it's just a vicious circle. So I always say, just accept it, move on. And it works. It worked for me, and that's the reason I rapidly started drawing. In terms of the volume I do, because obviously it would increase the volume by just moving on. But also the benefits of doing that were, they were obvious. I was doing things that were more. I can't say successful because, define success. It's one of those. It's my success and not necessarily what you consider to be a success. So I'm not really going to get into that. But in terms of what I enjoyed about doing it, it was always a better outcome. And like I say, it's just a different way of working. So in terms of the references, definitely look for things that they're going to move you emotionally, because that's the thing you're going to try and capture. Don't get hung up on the perfect images. Try and and especially when you look at other people's drawings and you see what they draw, it can sometimes influence what you choose to draw. So just be careful of that, because it's only a hop and a skip away from comparing what you do, your outcome, with their outcome. It's that kind of thing. So just be careful with that. You need to keep away from other people's drawings until you're clear that other people's drawings are just their expression of their creativity, and it doesn't mean to say that yours has to be the same. So once you're in that kind of place where you can be objective like that, then you can look at other people's work. But up until that point, you're just going to be careful that it doesn't become a kind of a marker, a goal, because goals, difficult things to manage when you're an artist. It's like particularly with us, you know, sort of portrait artists, we tend to we're cursed by this. It's got to be perfectly, you know, perfect like this. It's got to be all those sort of things, the usual sort of things, you know. So we got all those things going on, and then you've got this thing about, oh, it's got to be as good as so and so's, you know, and because they're great at this and I'm not, you know, that sort of thing. So you just got to be. It's a minefield, basically. It's a minefield. But back to the reference again. That's the one thing. The way you can give yourself an edge by choosing the right kind of references, or choosing the right kind of lighting for your. I'm going to scrape the bark a bit off this. Or choosing the right kind of lighting for your subject. If you can't get lights, and I've seen people do this with lights, and they faff about with spotlights and God knows what else. Just get someone to sit near a window, you know, with a light on either the left or right side. That's all you need. You don't need to be any fancy lighting for, you know, to get a decent image, but people do it. And as I say, it just complicates things. I would say just keep it simple if that's the best way to look at it. This, by the way, this is some paper that I found. I you saw the video. I talked about paper. This is some more paper that I found. I've actually ordered some more of the recycled paper because that's probably the best one I've found for the way I work. But I'm sort of scraping the bottom of the pile, if you like, at the moment. So this is there's some kind of perforation on it. So it's come out of it. That happens with some of the cheaper papers is that they lose their surface integrity. It becomes mottled and it can't. You can't put any more marks into it because it's either lost its surface, you know, in terms of the textural surface, or in some way the charcoal's got embedded within the you know, the fabric of the paper, and it becomes kind of mottled. And that I get that sometimes. And one of the things that I'd say about that, it takes a lot of experience with those kind of papers in order to fix them, because they're not really meant for any heavyweight kind of rubbing out or charcoal, you know, in terms of the depth of charcoal that you might apply to it. And they're not really made for that. So unless you've experienced it before and know how to deal with it, it can be a little bit scary, and you'll lose the drawing sooner than you think, because it's just breaking up. And you know, to be quite honest with you, most of the time that happens, or many times that's happened, I've just aborted and started again, or found a better paper, because it's just not worth the effort, and it doesn't do anything for your confidence. I mean, that's a big thing, I suppose, in terms of the of doing this. It's one of the things is that, you know, I'm not sure where the confidence things lie. I mean, I would say that confidence for me is the confidence that no matter what, I'm going to like it. You know, no matter what, it's going to work. I don't think I've ever made a portrait or a drawing that couldn't be fixed. There are some that I wouldn't fix, and I don't know why. I just don't feel I don't feel the love for something. But I don't think I've ever known, because this is the beauty of charcoal. It's like, you know, it's very easy to fix it. It's not like graphite. Charcoal can be easily fixed. But as I say, I'm not really... if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's sort of that kind of thing, which is good. I mean, I like that. It's a much more, you know, expectation-free approach to drawing, and that's one of the things I bang on about all the time. Is that, you know, the confidence probably comes from the fact that I don't give a damn. It's not necessarily the confidence of, oh, I've done so many of these, I can just do it with my eyes closed, which would be a really good trick if I could, And but no, it doesn't come from that. It comes from the fact that I don't really mind, regardless, whatever happens. I spent how long now? 34 minutes. It's too quick. It's too quick, and this is not far off being done. I mean, I've got to do a few tweaks and sort out his chin there, and because one of the things is that I'm looking at this, and I'm not going to do it with my finger because of the grease on it, but the mouse wants a little bit of tweaking, but it's this distance here. You can see that there. So we got this, whatever this shape is here, and we got this shape here, and then the under the lip shape, but we also got this thing going on here, which is the the sort of darker part and the part of his beard that's been that bit there. There's a kind of a line there before his beard then sort of comes round again around here. If I've spent an hour, if I've spent 4 hours doing this, having fun doing this, then there's the win. It's not a case of, I mean, it's great if it works, and invariably it does because of that carefree attitude. But at the end of the day, if all that happens is that I just enjoy myself for a couple of hours, in a world of my own, regardless of whether I'm filming it or not, then right there is the secret to it. That's the reason why. I have this sort of confidence, is because I know I'm just going to enjoy myself for a couple of hours, and that's it, And it's very rare in time. I mean, I'm old, so you spend your life chasing the wage packets and paying the bills. So it's not. I'm fortunate, should we say, that I can do this now, but. I couldn't, for the 30 years, I couldn't do it because I had to pay the bills. So I'm now fortunate enough to be able to do that. But, which is a shame, it shouldn't have been like that. I should have probably carried on doing it. But the problem was that I had a poor mindset and I'm kind of one of those people that it's all or nothing, If I'm doing this, I'm doing it. If I'm not, I'm not, sort of thing. So if I was genuine, when I tried to sort of do the art, I wasn't a portrait artist, but when I was trying to sell my watercolors and things, it had to be everything. It had to be just that. I couldn't be part-time watercolorist and part-time programmer. I couldn't do that. I had to be one or the other. So. And that's just how I am, which is why I do so many of these now, because it's all or nothing. I tend to, do this I do it all the time. I wake up thinking about doing it, which is probably a good thing. Someone said about if you wake up thinking about doing it, then you're an artist. I don't know. It's one of those stupid cliches, It's just I don't think that's the case at all. I think that. We battle our own, we fight our own battles and approach our own battles in our own way. And I don't know whether or not to say, just because you don't wake up thinking about it, you're not an artist. That's ridiculous, But you say all these crappy these crappy quotes and sayings that you feel. It's back to this thing about you feel as though you have to comply with everything. So. But what's interesting about this, and I suppose it's again back to the choice of subjects, is this, the shadow aspect of it. You can see that sort of amazing kind of shadow that's, or dark shape, if you want to call it that. But the dark shape on the side of his face that sort of comes down into his collar there, which is the shadow from his head. It's I don't know. Choosing images like this, it's so much easier. It makes the job so much easier than trying to fight with something that requires, ultimate precision. I mean, I'm not really that kind of artist anyway. I'm more interested in suggestion and implication. So I'm always going to be looking for ways to imply and suggest. But if you're getting into sort of finer details and things, I just think that's it just makes it a lot harder, and And as I said before, I'm lazy and impatient, so I'm not. If there's a short route to anything, I'm going to find it. So that's, as I say, that's probably why the implication and suggestion works so well for me, because I can get away with murder by just doing a little sort of darker area in some way. And as long as the thing about the suggestion implication is that so long as you imply the trajectory, this is the people, and I leave things out of faces and all that, talking about lost edges and things. I'm not sure that is lost edges, but let's say that was lost edges. Providing that you imply the right trajectory for these things so that the viewer can complete the picture, then you can get away with murder, just by simply having a shadow that does that, and then that tells them that the side of his lower jaw is there, So, but that's all it has to be. So you kind of, if you can see where things should be, sort of pointing, you can do an awful lot with that. Plus the fact it's the reason why things are so quick. I mean, this is I just have to slow down and just be a bit more precise about the ear and things like that. But apart from that, this is more or less done, and I've just got to fix them out so it's just a little bit more like that. But this is just distances that I'm looking at. The eye's got to be a little bit more like that, and then But I don't know if you can see this on here, but I'm looking at what you're looking at on my screen now. But you can see there's like layers of darkness within the actual eye area there. This is what charcoal does. It's these inner tones that you can see that contribute to the depth of something, the reality of something. It's that. If you see these guys that do the ghosty kind of things, that's what they play on. They play on this sort of depth of charcoal, and it's always within these ghostly kind of blurs. But that's it. That's why they choose charcoal. Only charcoal could do that, And I say it's something you really got to exploit. If you're using charcoal, you've got to exploit it. It's one of those things going to make your life a lot easier if you do that. It's not hard to do. It's hard to do in the fact that you have to only see certain things, because that's what you're doing. You're eliminating things that aren't necessarily important. So you kind of, somebody talks about it being squinting. I don't think it's squinting, but because I'm not squinting or blurring, it's neither of those two things. But what I do tend to do is I do a lot of to and froing from the reference. So glancing is probably the best way I could describe what I do. So if you glance at somebody's face, I said this the other day in one of the demos. If you glance at somebody's face, or look at somebody's face and close your eyes instantly, that you look at whatever residue of image is left in your eye, whatever image you can vaguely see, that's what we're trying to draw. Those are the bits that matter. So if you can do that in a glancing backwards and forwards, not really capturing enough of the detail, but just capturing enough to be able to sort of transmit that to the paper. That's probably what it is. So glancing backwards and forwards, I only see parts of the information, and that's the information that I'm focusing on. So as I say, it's not really difficult to just see only what needs to be drawn or to be captured. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at this, and what I'm going to do now, if I'm going to assess what needs to be done on it, I need to sort out the balance of tones. I need to clean up the ear so it's a little bit crisper. The value of that, or the tone of that, is a little bit light. You can see how it sticks out at the bottom. So what often I'll do is that, just to knock it back. You'll see now, you see how it changes now. So that needs to be sorted out. And it's just shadows and implication within the ear. There's nothing complicated about it. But the most important thing was that it was the right density in relation to everything else. Sort the hair out, sort this bit out, increase the density down there, put a bit more shadow under his eye, fix the edges of his beard that's there, bring this up, soften these edges out, just sort out the tilt a little bit better. So just looking at the horizontal of that, just looking there, it's kind of where it should be, but it just needs a little bit more emphasis on that. Sort that bit out there. But yeah, it's just about there, I think. Again, a little bit overdone there. Highlight on that's just throwing that's too dark there. One of the things about that I do the most of is tweaking tones like that. One of the things that for me is it's all about tone, and if I don't get the balance of the tones, so they all relate to each other as they should. This is not values, because values implies it's a replication of that. What I'm interested in is the relationships of these, because this charcoal might not, it does in this case, but sometimes it doesn't make the right densities. And if it's about replicating densities or values that people call them, the charcoal might not do it. So I'm constantly in the gray zone kind of thing. So I need to be able to replicate the balance, the relationships between the tones. That's what, and I spend a long time fixing tones. Mostly it's charcoal, mostly it's the rubber thing, the thing on a stick, sponge on a stick, the rubber and a cotton bud. That's basically how I tweak all the tones. But other than that, there's little things that I need to fix. I'm just looking at the distance between there and the angle of that there. That's what I'm looking at the moment. So I can just go through and fix all those things. One of the things, I mean, somebody commented on the don't draw noses and that one. One of the things about this way of working is that it is a evolutionary approach. So you tend to go through stages and fix things, and you can see as it develops, rather than trying to get the precision in the first place, because it's always difficult, you work through it, and then you tweak it, and then you adjust it, and all of a sudden, and what's nice about that approach is that you're left with a lot of residue of early marks, and sometimes those early marks contain so much life that regardless of whether they're right or wrong, they are right. If you know what I mean. It's kind of, it leaves you got, because you were putting the life in at the beginning. You put the life in a portrait in the beginning, don't put it in at the end. So some of those wrong marks are actually the right marks, because they're full of life. They're just your immediate response, your initial response to a face. So it's often good to leave those in. They end up looking like leftovers, like this is down here, and a bit of a kind of almost like a technique. It tends to look like a style or something, but and you'll see sometimes on mine there's like lines on the outside, but they're not meant to be a technique. They're part of the evolution of the face, and as I said, because they were put in early doors, they're full of life. So I'd like to keep those if I can, rather than being rubbed off and rubbed away. Because the other thing about them is that I also like the remnants thing. This is just purely me. I don't think it's what everybody else should do, but I just like the remnants of marks, because it's almost like it's, it's almost like it's evolved from these marks, and then leaving the remnants in, whether the rub outs or whatever they might be. I think that is like a, that's me bringing it to life. Those marks are important as the ones that are actually accurate. But as I said, all these are all my personal opinions about things. You can choose whatever you decide on how you're going to do this. It's down to you. I'm not saying they should do it like me. I'm just telling you that's the kind of things I think about when I'm making drawings. But yeah. As I said, I'm going to leave it, and I'm just going to sort of fiddle with the tones, and then it'll be done. But yeah, choose the right images, get the right images. You'll be amazed at the difference of your drawings, and how much happier you'll be with the drawings, because the right images, you got to feel excited about drawing the right images. And if you're not excited about drawing them, then even if they're great, great faces, don't try, because it'll be a frustration, and you'll think it's you, and it's not you. It's not having the right image in the first place, or not setting up your model properly. Right. So I'll leave you, and I'll catch you in the next one.